that's going. So now we just will start seeing people come into the room here. So as people are joining us, I'm going to fill a little bit of time just to give everybody a chance to get in and get settled. So while we're doing that, I'll just kind of fill a little air and say hi to Kellye.
Hi.
Coming to us from what was supposed to be Tucson, but is now Dallas.
Dallas, yes. I have literally, I try to like make myself look pretty, but I have no luggage. So it's literally, this is my travel look.
It's a good look. It's a good look. I told her to call room service and have them deliver a glass of wine in the middle of this and just like try to be all fancy.
The next one for sure.
Exactly. So. And then we've got Shawn. Oh yeah, Shawn. I'm calling you Shawn. Should I be calling you S.A. or can I call you Shawn?
You call me Shawn. S.A. was just my right name. I thought it sounded cool, but it doesn't.
I thought you trying to be fancy. That's like when I first was in journalism like 20 years ago, I was Kellye M. Garrett. I was trying to be fancy. Like Kellye M.
Well,
Garrett.
I always with the initials, with the initials when there's no like first name, I'm always like, because we have another author, it's like, so do I call you T? Or can I?
Yeah. That's like,
can I call you S?
That's why I always call him Shawn, and then PJ Vernon, I just call him Philip. So I'm always like, shouldn't myself
Pay no attention to our attempts at being fancy and literary.
Right? I like it. So as we're starting up here, there are 3 other bookstores that are helping us put this event together. So along with Kellye's publisher, we have Warwick's, as my sign there says. We're located in La Jolla, which is San Diego, California. We've got Left Bank Books from St. Louis, Missouri. Left Bank, shout it out. Reeds and Company from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
Yay, PA.
Yeah, there you go. And Once Upon a Crime from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was nothing against Minneapolis. I got something in my throat.
Yes, Minneapolis. BoucherCon is coming up there. So
yes,
there you go.
I'm so looking forward to that.
Yeah. So thank you to all of those bookstores, all of you customers, from all of us. We have got the country covered with everybody coming in from everywhere. So this is really fun. All of us who are here, Left Bank and Reeds and Once Upon a Crime. And I will also go ahead and put the link to Kellye's book in the comment section so people can order that from you if they already have not. So with that, I'm going to do my quick intro and then I'm dashing out. Shawn, we forgot to chat and we were talking about so much other stuff. I'm going to come back in at about that 35-ish minute mark to bring questions in unless you want to do it from the Q&A, but I can pop in and do that if you want.
No, I'll let you do it.
Okay.
I'm not that technically inclined. So
all right. So I'll just kind of figure out where you guys are at around that time period and I'll pop in with the questions from everybody. So everybody, there's the Q&A button that you'll scroll over your screen at the bottom there. And I'm going to try and be quick because I'm not going to get any shade this time from taking too long to get off the screen.
Is that Shawn? Were we like that last time? Were we rushing people? I don't recall this.
I know, right?
The Q&A button at the bottom is where you guys will put your questions in. So don't be shy with those. So anyways, Kellye Garrett is the acclaimed author of Hollywood Homicide, which won the Agatha, Anthony, Lefty, and Independent Publisher Ippy Awards for Best First Novel and was named one of BookBub's top 100 crime novels of all time, as well as Hollywood Ending, which was featured on the Today Show's Best Summer Reads of 2019 and was nominated for both Anthony and Lefty Awards. Prior to writing novels, Kellye spent 8 years working in Hollywood, including a stint writing for Cold Case. She currently serves on the board of directors for Sisters in Crime and is a co-founder of Crime Writers of Color. She's here today to talk about her latest book, Like a Sister.
If I had my luggage, I would have put
I
it
know,
up for you guys. Just imagine a beautiful book with a red cover right now. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you.
Shawn to the rescue. Joining her is Shawn Cosby. Shawn is an Anthony Award-winning writer from Southeastern Virginia. He is the author of the New York Times bestseller Razorblade Tears and Blacktop Wasteland, which won the Los Angeles Times Book Prize, was a New York Times notable book, and was named a Best Book of the Year by NPR, The Guardian, and Library Journal, among others. When not writing, he's an avid hiker and chess player. Okay, I'm out. You guys have fun. Talk to you in a little bit.
I can tell by the comments, everyone in there is lit. I see like everybody in the comments. So I see you guys. We see you. Hello, everyone. I see you all.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here. How you doing, sis?
I'm good. It was a travel day from hell. Like, my agent's in the comments and she knows, like, I was just like, I have to make sure I'm here for this event. I could not miss talking to Shawn today. So thank you. I made it. You're here.
I gotta update my bio because like that's an old one I wrote like back in 2019, and so I've updated because I'm
booked and busy.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. It's funny, because I'm a Southerner through and through, so I hate to brag, but it's like my mama used to say, they ain't bragging if it's true. So I brag about you all the time, though.
Me?
I brag about you all the time though, because I say it to anybody that listens. I say it in interviews that not only are you one of my best friends, and not just in the writing community, but in general, but I really feel like you're one of the most talented mystery writers working today. So,
oh my gosh, stop! I really appreciate you saying that, and I really do appreciate you saying that. So
no, it's true, because when I read your books, I love reading authors that do things that I can't do. And I'm in awe of people that can do that. And so when I read Hollywood Homicide, Hollywood Ending, and Like a Sister, the way the story is constructed, the mystery, the narrative, the humor, which I have a little bit of humor in my books, but mostly everybody's getting hit in the face with shovels in my book. So there's not a lot of laughing going on. But the way you put stories together, the way you are able to have that comedic timing, but at the same time have an incredibly suspenseful story, I'm not even envious of it. I'm in awe of it. So I'm so glad to be here to talk with you today. Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
So I guess, oh no, I mean it. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I actually bugged Kellye because I'm working on a new book myself that's more mystery driven and crime driven. And so she was nice enough to let me bug her for like an hour asking about red herrings and where the killer comes in and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I believe in Chekhov's gun or Chekhov's like baseball bat. So when I get stuck, I usually just hit somebody in the book. And so I was like picking her brain for her skill about creating these interesting mysteries. So I guess we should start where everybody always likes to start when we talk about books. Where did the idea for Like a Sister come from?
It came from a headline in the New York Daily News. And the headline was about a woman, a Black reality star named Lyric McHenry. And it said, pregnant reality star found dead in Bronx with cocaine and no pants on. And I thought it was the most disrespectful headline. And I felt like because it was a Black woman, they were going to disrespect her like that. But at the same time, I was kind of fascinated, not necessarily with Lyric McHenry, but just that idea of how could a glamorous reality star go from partying it up in downtown Manhattan to dying alone on a street corner in the Bronx. And it just hit me one day, she was going to see her estranged sister and she never made it. And so once I got that idea, the story just clicked. And it's funny because that first line is, I found out my sister was back in New York from Instagram. I found out she died from the New York Daily News. That was the first thing I wrote. And for me, like to have something that I actually wrote first and it survived through all the drafts and all the years is because I'm always a nitpicker when it comes to words. And it just, that first chapter just flew out, and that does not work. That never happens for me. The rest of it did not flow out, but that first chapter flew out.
I know how meticulous you are with your writing and your plotting and everything. And wow. You finally rubbed off on me because I got a damn whiteboard finally. And
I have a whiteboard. I love it.
I think it is fascinating that first line came to you and it, like you said, it survived all the drafts and all the killing of the darlings. But I mean, like for me, I feel the same way. Sometimes something just hits you like a bolt of lightning, and this is it. This is the thing. This is the first line, or this is the subject or the plot. I want to ask you about a couple characters, but first, I guess we should talk about the main character, Lena. I've read the book, and I thought, okay, for somebody who grew up outside of the like New York metropolitan area, Lena's a fascinating character for me because she's tough, but she's funny, but she's also vulnerable in a way that a lot of times Black lead characters or Black female characters aren't allowed to be vulnerable.
Right.
And I thought you did such a great job of creating her and keeping our interest level. And also by the end of the book, I was, scared for her You know, I was like, oh, look out, girl. Oh no, don't go in there. So I was like, what are you doing, baby? But I thought that you also did an incredible job of evoking New York City through her eyes. You know, I love New York City, except for certain restaurants that shall remain.
Whatever, you're a hater.
But,
I always make him go to the same restaurant. He's a hater. That's restaurant. I don't know why he's a hater on it. Whatever.
But I mean, where did Lena come from? Where did the character come from? I mean, I know that's a weird open-ended question, but
it's funny because I think once I realized she was estranged from her family, I think it really hit. And I think that I wanted someone, because it's very much a family drama as well. And because Lena's dad's like this hip hop mogul that she feels like when he left her mom for Desiree's mother, the sister's mother, he left her. And so she kind of keeps him at arm's length. And so that I kind of wanted to deal with that because I know a lot of people that happens to, with the father kind of coming back when you get older. So that I wanted to deal with that. And I just kind of wanted to like have, I feel like a Black woman in mysteries, you don't see it a lot, especially domestic suspense. And I wanted to kind of have a fully formed Black woman. And actually my editor, I see you, Helen, she's in there. And I think one thing that I have a problem with is it'll be in my head and I won't always put it on the page. And so I have to give Helen credit because she would be like, I don't understand why she's doing this. And to me, I'm like, that's just the Black girl way. Like, you know, like, and so there's this whole through line of like that strong Black woman, super Black woman that in there just because Helen was like, I don't understand this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to explain, like, how can I explain this in a way that Black women aren't like, girl, like you're over explaining, but people who aren't Black understand that what the archetype of what Black women have to deal with. Because I think we are vulnerable, but people don't realize it. You know, they don't give us that same, they don't allow us to be vulnerable. We also don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable too. Like we always feel like we have to be strong for everyone, like for men and for ourselves and for our sisters and for our kids and for our parents. It's tricky. So.
Yeah, I thought you did a great job of showing that though. I thought Lena was able to articulate that. But like you're saying, there's a certain African-American or Black shorthand that you don't have to explain, you know, that we can communicate with just a look, you know, a raised eyebrow. And so it's hard sometimes to translate that to the page. I've had that issue myself.
I was gonna say, like, how do you deal with it? Like what, like how do you, because I'm always like, how much do I explain? Like I was just did an interview with Hope Today, and he was like, I love that you mentioned like Alpha Phi Alpha. And I don't explain what Alpha Phi Alpha is, because if you're Black, you know, Alpha Phi Alpha is a frat, like a Black fraternity, you know? And so it's kind of like, what do I explain and what don't I explain? It's like, how do you handle it?
I think for me, a lot of times because, and I think I have, you know, a little bit of an advantage because I write mainly about Black men, and there is a certain, there's less of a shorthand with Black men because I think Black women aren't given as much room to be vulnerable. And I think that the idea of tragic masculinity is sort of a shield for my character sometimes. And so, but when we talk about the nuance of the African-American experience, I mean, I always think when I write, is one of my white friends going to get this? And if they don't get it, then I have to go back and rewrite it and kind of explain a little bit more. Like you talked about PJ, and it's funny because PJ is originally from South Carolina. And so a lot of my African-American experiences that I write about, because I write Southern fiction, are also correlated with the Southern experience. So some things I have to explain and some things I don't. I get a lot when people from other parts of the country read it and they're like, I don't know what it means when he said he put his foot in them biscuits. I'm so confused. And so, but
his actual foot?
I wanted to say, it's like, why are they stomping on biscuits? What is that? Is that a ritual?
Is that like wine? Is that how they do the wine?
Yeah. Is that a Greek thing? No, it's a colloquialism. I wanted to say something because again, I've visited New York a bunch of times and we hung out and had really great times at Thriller Fest and other occasions and stuff. But for me, somebody who didn't grow up in New York, the vibrancy of New York is always so intoxicating when you come up there, like when you visit. The idea that any time of day, anywhere, anything can be happening. And I think I've said this before to other friends, I am so glad that I didn't go to NYU when I was younger, because I would have gotten so much trouble. y'all have seen me on the news. I would have been ready for that. And so I thought that you did a really good job of articulating that sense of what's the word I want to say? Almost like urban hedonism. And also the tragic side of that with Desiree and what happened to her, or what we, I don't want to give anything away, what we think has happened to her. And so was New York a character in the book for you, or was that just sort of the atmosphere that you're trying to create?
You know what? So when I was younger, I'm from New Jersey, and I read Harlan Coben and I read Valerie Wilson Wesley, and they both wrote characters who were in New Jersey, and they would actually put real life places in there. And I used to get so excited because I'd be like, oh my God, I recognize 280, I recognize Route 10, I recognize so many places. And so that's why in my, like, even my day books, those are all real. People think I live in LA still because I put so many LA places in the book. So yeah, I personally love when you can, like, a character, like the place is a character and it kind of comes alive and it feels like a real actual thing. If you go on my Instagram, I do an actual walking tour where I kind of show some of the places from it on there.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I love that though, because like I again, because I do the same thing with my books, but I'm writing about, I basically took my hometown and just made like an amalgamation with the two other like counties next door, so that I can. But I do love it when people from my hometown will reach out to me. It's like, I know where that road is, or I know where that
it's
is.
fun. It makes it more exciting when you recognize a place. Like it feels more real, and I want, even with my day books, I want people to think it's like real, like these are real people and real circumstances, like you said. So you do feel bad when she's going somewhere she should not be going. So
I think that's an excellent point. I love that. I love that about this book. And like, even like I said, me, a neophyte who's not a New Yorker, who's only visited a few times, it's like, oh, I know where that place is, and I know where that is, or that's the place that me and Todd Robinson, Angel Cologne saw those Russian mobsters. So it's like you can work But anyway, I also wanted to ask you, and I write a lot about father-son relationships, or and how that dynamic shapes the character's perspective. I thought it was so interesting, so cool that you wrote about the relationship between Lena and her dad and her sister, and how that family dynamic was constantly shifting, as to who was close and who wasn't close. I don't know the question I guess I want to ask, how important was the family dynamic versus the mystery and the suspense for you when you were writing it?
Honestly, I think it's equally important, because that family dynamic drives the mystery. Like if she didn't love her sister, she didn't feel guilt for their relationship and them being estranged, she would never have followed through on this whole book. She'd just be like, oh, she died, I'm gonna cry, and that's, you know what I'm saying? She could be like doing like 300 pages, and I think the thing I think is interesting is that it's the point of view of Lena. So even she says it in the book, the villain in her life is her father. And so that's how she's looking at it. But if it was from Mel's point of view, he doesn't think he's the villain. Like he thinks he was a good father because he took care of her financially when she really just needed a dad who was there. And so I kind of wanted to kind of play with that, where I don't necessarily know if Mel is a bad father, as bad a father as Lena thinks he is. He could have definitely been better, but I don't think he's this villain that she thinks he is. But because that's what she feels like, and that's how it's going to cloud every scene, but at the same time, like it's a Black father, so she ain't gonna talk back to him, and if he tells her to come to the office, he comes to the office, even though she don't want to come to the office, so like that's true too. Like she's never gonna tell him. And I think kind of like that journey, it's really kind of a story in a way between Mel and Lena and their relationship, and trying to get to a good point, by the end of the book. So
yeah, I think I totally understand that. And and when like I said again, when I write about the characters I write about in the relationship with the fathers and sons, there is a difference, I think, where you did something with Lena and and Desiree to a lesser extent with the relationship with Mel. There's just that uniqueness between a father and a daughter, that level of the father wanting to be protective, and like you said, thinking that he's done enough because he was financially supporting her, when like a friend of mine said, sometimes you just need your daddy. And I think,
and she did.
Yeah, and and so I think that's interesting, because again, I usually use this idea of masculinity again, sort of as a crutch to kind of supersede those relations, those conversations that you had, Lena and Mel had, which I found fascinating as a writer and as a reader. I wanted to ask you about how you incorporated all the social media app platforms in there, because that's how we really get a feel for who Desiree is.
Right,
Desiree
yeah.
is fast. So you use that almost as I don't want to say a ghost, but almost in a spectral way. That's how we get to know her and communicate with her and find out who she really was. She was this party girl. She was this social media, this influencer, so to speak. But also, I felt like in some of those, flashes or vignettes or however you want to describe it, I felt the loss. That she was this lost soul. I felt I hate saying I felt sorry for her, but I did, because you did such a great job. So I mean, was that intentional? I mean, I know it was intentional, but how did you go about using that?
I think so. For those who haven't read the book, you kind of have the first person of Lena POV, but also you kind of have these like little, like you said, vignettes that are IG, Instagram lives of Desiree. And the original idea behind it was just kind of to mess with what Lena thinks is going on. Like, oh, we know Lena thinks this. And then now here's this vignette with Desiree that could either confirm it or deny it, and I kind of want to play with that. Again, Helen, she was definitely like, we need to kind of have a more of a through line. Editors are so good, right? That's why they get paid.
Yes.
They have good advice. Like have this kind of through line of it, and it starts off, right away, and then it kind of goes backwards. And I did like really love that we can kind of see both Desiree, but also you kind of see the relationship with Desiree and Lena, because there are some scenes where they're together, and Desiree she's a sweet person, but she's very much a celebrity's daughter. She can be spoiled, she can be bratty, but she also could be there for you, and she has an alcohol problem, and she doesn't take accountability for stuff, so she is this flawed person. And I think you also have to care about what happened to her, right? And so I wanted to kind of bring her alive on the page too. So
I think that was great, because we both are fans of mystery. I grew up reading Agatha Christie and a lot of the early 20th century, like Ellery Queen and all those folks and stuff. And a lot of times the victim, the precipitating event in a mystery is the murder of a character. And a lot of times those victims get lost. They just become a body. They're a means to an end to the story. And I thought those vignettes you did really, for me, it just hammered home that this is a person. It made me feel protective of her. It made me feel like, we need to get some people together and go find out who did this.
You want to help me out?
Have a hammer party.
Wait, who did you like better, Lena or Desiree? If you had to hang out with one of them.
What's funny?
Or would you hang out with Mel?
No, I didn't want to hang with Mel. I felt like Mel would be one of those people who's like, I don't like you, and I gotta pretend that I like you. I thought if you asked me, 25-year-old Shawn would have wanted to hang out with Desiree,
right?
But 40 Shawn would like hanging out with Lena, because I think Desiree is someone who exists in that moment of, like you said, no accountability, partying, but the partying is, is filling a hole that she has in her heart. And again, I just thought that you did such a good job of bringing her home, and again, being in New York myself, you can see how you can so easily slip into that sort of lifestyle if you want, and how you can try to use that to fill the void in your heart. And I loved how you were able to articulate that with those vignettes. Like I said, it's almost like if this book was written like 100 years ago, that would have been like an epistle that was written as a radio. I thought that was really good. Another thing I want to ask you, and we talked a little bit about craft. I mentioned your meticulousness and the damn whiteboards. But I know you have a really, I don't want to say rigid, but a really structured way that you put your stories together and you put your books together. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
First of all, the blank page scares me, so I'm a super outliner. And I couldn't, if you want to talk craft for a little bit. What I do, and I did it more for the day books, I do a 3-act structure, and there's a big twist at the end of each act. And then the way I have it is she has an investigative focus for each act. So it's usually a question. So like with Hollywood Homicide, it's about a woman who, an actress who witnesses a hit and run, and she needs money. So she wants to look into what happened because it's a $15,000 reward. And she's like, oh, if I can just remember the car, I can get the reward. And so the first act, she's like, what car hit Haley Joseph? And that's what she's trying to figure out. It gets answered. She figures out by the end of the first act what car it was, but the twist is the car was stolen. So now the question is who stole the car? That's the second act. That gets answered. And then all of a sudden there's another twist. So that's how I usually break down my things. And I think Jordan Harper does it too. I think it's more of a TV film thing that I think kind of also works for novels. So
that's interesting because I'd use a similar 3-act structure, but I don't really have big reveals or twists, but I do have like, I try to do mounting action. Like I do every chapter. If a chapter starts with a positive for a character, it's going to end with a negative. If it starts with a negative, it ends with a positive. And so then I kind of keep that, for me, especially when you're doing like crime novels, like with Blacktop Wasteland, because that's a heist novel and it's just got to flow so fast. The pace has to be a breakneck. It works better. I am struggling a little bit now with my project that I asked you about, because I definitely do have to use that 3-act structure, and I do have to have certain reveals. Yeah. And I find myself falling back on my skill level of like, I'll just kill somebody. And it's like, yeah.
It's always good to, when in doubt,
somebody
someone's gonna die. I think that's a good way to go.
Get a wrench. But yes. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be more nuanced. You know, I'm probably going to bother you again in a couple months when I get a little closer to it. But I think that's interesting because I can see that in your story, Hollywood Homicide, and Hollywood Ending, and in this. And I thought, again, for a domestic thriller, it really does hammer home the suspense level when you have those twists at the end of each act. And so by the time you get to the end of the book, and I'm not giving nothing away, all of that suspense, all of that stuff is winnowed down to this final point. And so you have this incredibly suspenseful, incredibly tense, denouement that is really well done. And again, I'm a mystery fan from way back, and I didn't guess who it was, who the killer was. And I think that's a tricky thing. I like when I'm cool. Yeah.
I'll give you guys.
You know what's funny? I was gonna say what's funny is I thought I knew, and I second guessed myself, and then I picked somebody else, and I was like, God damn it.
What's funny is that my aunt's in here, Monica. I have another aunt, and she was like giving me updates of who she thought it was during. She's like, I think it's this, I think it's this person, I think it's that person. And like when people do that, I can only be like, oh, okay. Like I can't tell them, but it's always interesting to see what, like when people, because sometimes I want you to think it's somebody, right? And sometimes I don't. So I'm always curious of like, okay, if I want you to think it's Shawn, but maybe not until act 3, and you think it's Shawn in act 1, that's a problem. But if you think it's Shawn in act 3, then that's what I want. So I'm always like asking her, like, oh, what page are you on? What page is that? Like, let me know what page you're on, so I know like what your thought process is when. So
well, you gave me some really good advice about that, as far as like where to place the killer in the narrative, how to create red herrings, but at the same time play fair with the reader. Because again, as a reader, I hate when somebody has a ex machina killer. It's like, oh, it was the invisible broom salesman. We haven't seen him. Where did he come from? It's like I hate when writers do that. So that advice really helped me as far as like structuring what I'm trying to do with my own writing. Another thing, I will veer a little bit away from the books a little bit. Anybody knows you that follows you on social media knows how passionate you are about writing, about crime writing, and crime writers of color. And I wanted to let you talk about that a little bit. We're both members of this group, but I will say before you talk about it, Crime Writers of Color is an incredible organization. And for me, when I first started out, Kellye reached out to me, and anybody that doesn't know this, when you're a crime writer of color, whatever persuasion, or from a marginalized group, a lot of times you feel lonely when you go to conventions. You can feel alone when you're doing live readings or book signings. And sometimes you feel like you're the only one. And so that organization really, really helped me kind of feel like, hey, I've got people that I can talk to, because there is a uniqueness to being a person of color writing crime fiction that and only other people that are people of color understand. So I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
So it just came from, I knew from Sisters in Crime, their Guppies group, and an organization called Pitch Wars, how important community was, and people who were like-minded in terms of like where you were in the journey or your background or what you write or something like that. And so when I got my deal, I was actually surprised there was not already a crime writers of color, right? And so Gigi Pondian, whose book comes out next week, March 15th, under Lock and Skeleton Key, she and I were talking about starting a group. And then Naomi Hirahara, literally, I'll never forget, she put a comment on my Facebook page and she goes, Walter Mosley wants to start a group too. And I was like, okay, but like how the hell am I ever going to run into Walter Mosley? Like, I'm literally like, Walter Mosley, I do not hang out in the same circles. And then like, and this is where being Black helped, because he was doing an event with like Joe Aday and Attica Locke, and Attica Locke couldn't do it, and they needed another Black person, so they asked me. And so I was like, oh. So all of a sudden 2 weeks later, now I have an opportunity to actually meet Walter Mosley. And I said to myself, if I meet him, the first thing I'm going to say to him is, I want to start this group. And I did. And to his credit, he called me the next day and we probably like argued for like an hour, because that's how he and I are. And we decided to start the group. And so I invited people I knew, like you, and Gigi invited people she knew, and Walter invited people he knew. So we had like 30 people when we started. Now we have like 350. And it's like, it's people like you who are New York Times bestselling authors, and it's people who are just starting out who go, I think I want to write a book. And we're all equal in the group, you know, like we celebrate, oh, I got a short story, or oh, I got an agent. We celebrate, like Walter just posted how 2 of his TV shows are, you know, going to be on TV. Like, and we're equally as excited for both, you know. So I think that's why the group energy is just so good, because it's so supportive. You know, it's not like
it is, and
group.
I'll tell you, it is. It's great, but it's also a great place sometimes to go for me, and I think for everybody else in the group. Somebody just want to go and vent sometimes, because things happen or things are said or not said that are uncomfortable. And for me, I have a bad temper, so a lot of times it's good for me to go in the group and let things out. You know, you got, when you got hams that are the size of ham hocks, you can't have a bad temper around. So like, it's good for me to go in there. But also, it's like you said, it's incredibly supportive. I'll just mention one person. There's so many people from the group, but the book, her name is Night, by Yasmin, is, I watched that book grow and become a phenomenon through crime writers of color. Right. People like you and people mentoring her and helping her and everything. And that's just, you know, again, it's such a beautiful thing to see, because for me, when I started out, I felt like I knew Walter Mosley and that was it. Like, okay, I don't know who I can talk to, who I can unload on, who I can use as a mentor to help me get better. And that's another thing that the group does. It really does help you become a better writer and also a better author. And I think those things are two different things sometimes. The writer is the action of writing it. The author is being a part of the publishing world. And I think it really opened my eyes about that as well.
It's different,
you know, check us out, Crime Writers.
Oh, Yaz, I think Yaz, Yaz is in the audience. And I just wanted to kind of, I'm not going to put you on blast, Yaz, but she definitely, like, remember she reached out to me. She's like, oh, I have this book, I'm looking for an agent. And I was like, oh, well, she's like, do you know anyone who could help me, like, just read some pages? I was like, oh, Shawn might do it. And so I think I connected you two, and then you gave her some good advice, you know, and then she got Eleanor Taylor Bland, and then she got an agent, and then she sold her book to Thomas and Mercer, blew up, got a film deal. So it's just really, like I said, it's really cool to see people like that who are just like, oh, I have this book, and then next thing you know, now they're like this big time author. So
it's beautiful. I love it. And I did connect us, and it was, you know, it's funny. It was one of those things where I read her work and I was like, damn, this is good. I mean, it's like, it's one of those books up there with She Rides Shotgun by Jordan Harper, where it made me feel like, well, I'm gonna stop, because I can't do that.
It's a good book. It's a good book.
I'm gonna start doing pastries.
I would like to see that. I would like to see the Shawn Cosby.
I guess before we take questions from the audience, I wanted to say on a personal note that getting to know you and you inviting me to be part of our Crime Writers of Color, but also being your friend has been one of the most enjoyable parts of this writing journey. And you, I don't think my books would be doing the things they're doing if it wasn't for you and always supporting me and always
Shut
having
up.
my back.
Shut up. No, like, no, it's not that. I just remember when you told me you had like, you got like your, like, we're about to go out and you got your offer. And I was just like, so excited for you. And again, the same thing is to see you blow up. And it's funny because I think there are certain people who feel like we should all be competitive to each other. Right. And we should, I think we can't be competitive. And I'm like, because there's what if you, your success is going to help me. It's going to help Alex Agaro, whose book is out next week. It's going to help. Yes. It's going to help people who we don't even know yet, you know? So how can I be mad about that? But I don't understand the people who think we should be competitive with each other. And it's like, the glass ceiling is still there. We all have to go and bang it. Not just one of us. So
I'll never understand those people that are that want to be crabs in a bucket, man.
Yeah.
Because the rising tide lifts all boats. You know, to quote Michael Connelly, you know, everybody wins and nobody wins. So
that's exactly how it goes. Everybody wins. And I saw Wanda in here. Wanda's book's blowing up. That's gonna help all of us too. It's just like, it just helps, you know, and especially right now. We are in this golden age where they're finally checking again for people of color in crime fiction. And like Mia's book, Mia Manansala, Arsenic Adobo was amazing last year. And that's going to lead to more cozies by people of color. It's like, how I can't be.
I got to tell you a story. I got to tell you a story about that, about Mia and her book. Okay. So PBS reached out to me last year and they were like, hey, we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Mystery. You know, and so we want you to suggest a cozy that came out in 2021 that you like. And I loved, you know, Arsenic and Adobo. And they were like, it's got to be a cozy. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I suggested, you know, Mia's book and wholeheartedly because I love that book. It's so good. So Walter was on that same article for PBS. Mm-hmm. And Walter, being Walter, was like, yeah, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm going to suggest Razor Blade Tears. I don't care.
Walter does not care. Walter does not care. It's funny. Walter is like, honestly, like the most supportive people. Like for him to be as huge as he is, he's like one of the most supportive people. So.
Yes. And I guess we'll take some questions now.
I got some questions. But I also was remembering back when we hosted you like 6 months ago or so, and I had thrown out that I wanted to make sure we did this. And here we are in March doing this. And I'm just like so excited that we're back here.
I was like, we have to do it.
We have to do this. Do the switch. I love it. But Kellye, we talked about, and I wanted to know if you did this, I think in your podcast about listing the events on your pod. Did you ever do that on your podcast where you list like everybody's events that so that everybody that on the podcast knew the book events that were going on?
I don't think I don't think so. Yeah. I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
No, it was towards the end of the conversation. It's like you need to list where everybody's events are going to be.
I feel like I don't even list my own events, which is horrible. Like, but I don't. My website's like it looks pretty, but I'm so bad at
there's so much to keep track of. I swear to God, there's just like oh my God, there's just too much. Okay, so Alex has a question for you.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex. Can you talk about the books that are big influences on your own work, writers you go back to often, and why?
So for me, I think there's a lot of women and Black people. Because I started reading mysteries in like the late 80s, early 90s. So Sue Grafton, Kenzie Milhone, B is for Burglar is like one of my favorite books. Sarah Paretsky, Laura Lippman. To me, like someone they had an article saying the greatest living crime writer, and it's about Laura Lippman, and I was like, facts. That is facts. We're not even arguing about that. And then we had Valerie Wilson Wesley, who I mentioned, Walter Mosley, obviously, Barbara Neely, who's this Black woman who won the Agatha and the Anthony in like 1993. So I'm just like, I was just lucky. I think that's how I knew I could write, because I think representation matters. And so I was lucky to grow up at a time when they were finally publishing women and Black people. And so it made me go, oh, I could write a book. So what about you, Shawn?
Yeah, Shawn.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I mean, I of course, Walter was a huge influence on me. Devil in a Blue Dress was the first time I read a book where it's like, oh man, I know these people and I know how to write these people. I can do this because I've seen, you know, Easy. I know Easy. I know a couple mouses in my life. So it was like, I could do this. But also Chester Himes was a huge influence on me. My mom and dad used to read. My mom used to read all the Chester Himes novels, and then my dad liked the movies. So Cotton Comes to Harlem and and the Real Cool Killers and stuff like that. Donald Goins was an influence, but also because I'm from the South, a lot of Southern writers, Alice Walker, Ernest J. Gaines, were huge influences on me. William Gay, it was a huge influence on me, and so those are books that I return to a lot, that inspire me when I get stuck, like I am right now, on something I'm working on. So.
Okay, Trequinski. Sorry, but I'm
Quincy. It's Quincy. It's Quincy.
Okay, Quincy and Sandra. You guys both have actually kind of the same question, so I'm going to just combine them. They want to know, what are some of the things you are reading right now, and specifically for pleasure?
What is that? I right now I have My Sister's a Serial Killer. I have that one. I brought that one with me to Dallas. I just finished Homicide in Hollow Hollow, Mia's second book, which is really good. I just finished Kismet by Amina Akhtar. That was really good. It comes out in September. It kind of skewers the wellness industry in Sedona. I just finished Alex's book, which comes out next Tuesday. Secret Identity was a New York Times editor's pick for this week. So like I'm lucky that I know like some really talented writers, and so I get to read stuff early, which is like, it's like my dream. Like 5-year-old writer me is like, yes, this is my dream. So
what about you, Shawn?
I'm currently reading, I just got it in the mail the other day, Gigi Pedian's book.
Yeah.
Pondian, I'm sorry, Under Lock and Skeleton. You know what's funny? I've known her now for 5 years. We've talked about like lock room mysteries, and I always mess her name up. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? But Under Lock and Skeleton Key, which is excellent. I love it. I love old school lock room mysteries. I'm reading, I just finished Don't Know Tough by Eli Craner. Remember that name. Remember that name, because that book is going to be huge.
What is it again?
That guy, Eli Craner's Don't Know Tough. I'm telling you, that book is going to blow up. If you like Razorblade Tears, you should read that book.
That's high praise.
I just finished Shoot the Moonlight Out by William Boyle, an excellent crime literary drama set in Brooklyn, in a Brooklyn neighborhood. Her Name is Night by Yasmin. I love that book. I read it again. That's how much I loved it. Paradox Hotel by Rob Hart. I'm starting that this weekend. Finish Gigi's book. Probably.
Have you guys had a chance to read Joey Day's new one, the Philip Marlowe book?
Oh no, I haven't read it yet. I should be able to read it because he's on the same publisher as me. But hello, hint, hint. I should get a free copy.
Hello, hint, hint. Exactly. Who's ever listening from Mulholland?
Helen O'Hare.
No, it's really good. I mean, he's not sure if he's going to get asked to. Yeah,
she just said she's on it. Thank you.
See, we'll just getting more books for you. Just that's the fun part about being in this industry, is like the book mail that comes. It's just like, oh my God, it's so fun. Real quick about the cover. Is the cover reveal any secrets?
Of mine? No, it's so funny because there wasn't even a necklace in the book, and I was like, oh, she put a necklace on, but it was just a beautiful cover, and I was like, I just love it's just so pretty. It evokes the idea, I think, of the story, which is like a glamorous story, but actually it's a mess, because it's a broken glass and the colors. It's just, I love that cover.
It's a really good cover.
And you have to, not to say you should buy it, but you should buy it because when you see it in real life, there's something about it's like matte, but it's shiny. Like, I don't know what the cover treatment is, but it's gorgeous in real life.
Yeah, no, it's got that yes, the feel of it is really good.
Yeah, I don't know what they did, but thank you.
Yeah,
Mulholland Books.
There you go, Mulholland again. Thank you very much. All right, you two. So I guess we're gonna do the next one so we'll have you back again when Shawn releases his next book.
Yes, we're just gonna keep.
We're just gonna keep this going.
We're just trading off.
This is in perpetuity. We're just gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, you guys, everyone, thank you for coming. I was looking at the chat. I couldn't answer all of you guys, but it was a lit chat. So thank y'all.
It was a really good chat going on. All right, everybody. This was super fun. Hope you make it to Tucson, Kellye. Oh, she froze. So we might. Oh no, you back? Okay, you're back. There you are.
Yeah, back. Sorry.
Okay. And Shawn, we got a little bit of time to wait for yours. We're not even thinking 2023, right? Or are we?
2023 probably, because I write fast and I'm working on it right now. So it's that Southern Baptist work ethic that was beaten into me. So it's like
There you go. So we're going to be back for this and then the next one for Kellye. So
Yep,
anyways,
back and forth.
All right.
Yep.
Have a
All
great
right.
time.
Bye,
Thank
Julie.
you guys
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right,
Take
bye,
care.
guys.
Thank you. Love you, sis.
Love
Good
you
night.
too. Bye.
Bye.